Hello everybody, it is Mrs. Deutsch here checking in from my home art studio. This is a special edition of Mrs. Deutsch's remote art class brought to you on a Sunday, which is a little bit atypical, but life is not very typical right now, so there are no rules. The reason I am coming to you is because I had a last minute, but what I thought would be a little helpful idea. I know that a lot of us are missing out on a lot of our traditions this time of year. If you are a Christian, it is Palm Sunday. So typically a lot of us would be at Mass. We would be getting our dried palm leaves or palm fronds, and we would be using them to weave all kinds of cool things. But you know, for a lot of people that's just not going to happen this year. I know some churches did organize a way for you to pick up your dried fronds. Some didn't have the time. Either way, as long as you are practicing your safe protocols for social distancing, if you were able to go get palm fronds, good for you. If you weren't, I would like to present with you a little happy alternative, and that is that we can craft our own palm fronds or palm leaves out of just simple paper. Being the art supply hoarder that I am, I happen to have both green just regular paper as well as green construction paper, and I also have a lot of different like printed green scrapbook paper. So that's what I will be using for this tutorial. If you do not have green paper available to you, you have two ways that you can do this. You can do it on regular white paper and either spray paint it, color it, paint it, whatever afterwards, or what I think is probably simpler, although it does use supplies that partially that you're going to be cutting, you could paint the paper beforehand. Alternatively, maybe you want them to look like the dried fronds, so you want them to be that light green tan color. Maybe you want to get really creative since you're making them out of paper. Maybe you want to make them some different bright colors. But whatever the case is, all you're going to need for this today is paper of your choice. If you have green, great. If not, don't sweat it. And you will need a pair of decent scissors. These are actually much more heavy duty than I need. If you just have regular school scissors, they're going to work fine because we will be cutting these one at a time. So anyway, if you would like to learn how to make these lovely paper palm fronds with me, let's get started and move to the desk. I'll see you soon. Okay, here we are, and we are ready to start to make some of these lovely paper palm fronds out of just paper and scissors. Once again, I will be using the green paper that I have. So that for me is I have some green construction paper, I have some more vivid green just regular paper, and I also have some patterned scrapbook paper if I decide I want to use those. But we're just going to start with the regular green. This is like computer thickness, just regular paper. It's nothing special. It is green though. So once again, if your paper is white, you can either color or paint your paper beforehand, you can do it afterwards, or you can just let this be art and be okay with it being a different color. All right, that's up to you. To begin, we are going to fold our paper, because by folding the paper, what we'll end up with is a nice stem along our folded edge, and that way we have to do half the cutting. I actually cut these as one. You can see they do line up when it's folded, so it only took me half the time you would think that it would make to make this. This is also good because it gives it a little bit more dimension. It's not flat. It shouldn't be flat. It's a leaf, and leaves are not perfectly pressed like paper. So you have two choices. For a shorter, wider leaf, you're going to fold your paper long ways. And for a taller, slightly thinner leaf, let's see if we can see the difference there, you are going to fold your paper lengthwise, okay? So either way, when I fold my paper, and let me move this other green paper so that you can see this all against the desk a little better. I'm going to move my finished leaves out of the way as well. Okay, so I always line my corners up as best I can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want it to be as close as I can get it. I hold the top edge, and with my other hand, I press and I crease. We don't need this to be a super strong fold, so that should be good. And you can start to see this will be the center vein and the stem of our palm frond. The next thing I want to do is give it the general shape of a palm frond. Now, when I fold something in half in order to save time, what I want to make sure I don't do is cut my fold. Because if I cut my fold, I'm just making this into 2 pieces of paper. So the unfolded edge is where I want to be cutting. And the first thing I want to do is I do want to give myself a little stem. And I don't want my stem to be too thick, so I do want a nice, just small little cut there. And then I want to create the shape of my leaf. So a palm frond has kind of like a paddly type shape. So I'm going to start to go up and curve it into my side edge there, which I can let. And then going up to the top part, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to curve it until I hit my top edge. So that gives me a shape a little bit like this, and I can clean it up or I can change it up a little bit if I want. So when I open, it should look almost like a ping pong paddle. I've got my stem and I've got my sides. Believe it or not, we are almost there. This is a very, very simple thing to do. So now what we want to do in order to get this nice shape like a real palm leaf where we have some fronds sticking up and then the most of them are sticking out the sides, what I want to do is make a cut like I did for my stem. I do want it to be a point because palm fronds end in points. So I'm going to cut a little pointy edge here and then make it, you know, just kind of a thin leaf shape like on a palm or on a fern. And then what I need to do is cut off what's going to be my negative space or the space between my individual palm leaves. So, or fronds. So I am just going to make a nice large cut there because at the top of a palm frond our little petals, I'm going to call them, aren't all that close together. We have some nice gaps. And then I do want to make sure that I'm making my next frond. So once again, I want it to be a point at the edge. And then I want to cut down and curve it towards my stem without cutting my stem. Once again, I can sort of cut out this negative space here. Okay, pointed edge, I make my next petal, once again, curving it down towards my stem without cutting my stem, and then cutting my negative space, and as you can see, I'm already starting to curve it towards my side, okay? Open it up just for a little check there. So again, I'm only cutting on my open edge, not my folded edge. So I want to cut a little bit of a thinner negative space this time because as it gets to the side, our individual little leaf petals or whatever we want to call them, they tend to get closer together. So each time I start a new little section of my palm frond, I do want it to be a point. As you can see, I'm not making these perfectly even. They don't all need to be the same exact shape or size. I am eyeing it up just to make sure they're somewhat close. I cut out some negative space in between, and then I can start at my point to make my next one. And this is going to be my kind of last one that's pointing sort of diagonal. We had our vertical, our diagonal, and now we want to start making them more horizontal. So I want to make sure I cut a good bit of this negative space and kind of lead it to the end of my cut there. Okay. And then I'm going to just continue this process of making my points at the end, cutting towards my stem without cutting my stem, and then cutting my negative space out. Maybe I want this one to be a little shorter so I don't start at the very end. Okay, and then once again, I'm cutting this space in between. Let's make another nice point here. Okay, and cut the space in between. Cut from my point here. And I'm not making them perfectly straight lines. I want them to have some curve. It makes it look more realistic. Things in nature tend not to have perfectly straight lines. So there's no point in using a ruler or anything for this. Okay, cut my negative space. Now towards the bottom, I do want my fronds to get somewhat shorter or smaller because that's just how they tend to look on a real palm leaf, which you can feel free to look up some pictures of, because when you have a good idea of what it should look like in your brain, you have a better idea of making it with your hands that way. So I'm going to make this a little bit shorter by starting in somewhat. Just cut my negative space again. Let's make this another little shorty. Cut some negative space. Another little shorty. Some negative space. Okay, we're almost at the bottom here. Okay, I'll cut some negative space. And then this is a little bit thick, so I'm just going to cut this baby in half and let that be the bottom. Okay, so this is what it looks like closed. And this is what it looks like when we open it. And we've got a nice little palm frond here to add to our mix of the fronds we already created. No matter how you fold it, no matter what color or size paper you use, that is going to be how you create your paper palm fronds. Simple as that. So this is an activity that you can do pretty much any age. I would say the little ones, you want to make sure you're supervising them if they're using scissors, but this is definitely an activity that the whole family could do together. And who knows what you can think of to create with your lovely palm fronds, but I would love to see. So as always, if you enjoyed this tutorial, feel free to leave me any comments, constructive criticism, any feedback. If you have any requests for similar lessons, please leave them. And once again, you'll find the information right in the description of this video, but you can always share your finished work with me on Instagram using the hashtag Mrs. D's Remote Art Class. I do so love to see your finished work. So I hope you all enjoy this short little tutorial and enjoy making some palm fronds together, whether it's for Palm Sunday or maybe just you want to have a little tropical getaway in your own living room. That's up to you. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.